What is going on, everybody? Today we will be reacting to how Sony wasted the PS5 era. Let's get started.
You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not necessarily brand loyal to any one particular console or platform. I just want to play games that interest me. I've had various points where I've been a big fan of Nintendo. I've had various points where I've been a big fan of PlayStation. I acknowledge PC gaming as the best overall choice as far as optimally experiencing your games, even
Notice how we didn't say Xbox yet, but the funny thing is that yeah, same here actually. I really did go through like all my main platforms. I did or all the main platforms, right? There was one point where I um I was more so curious about Xbox, but I was more so like a huge Nintendo fan, right? All this like main platform syndrome to me happened around the Wii era, right? From the Wii to Wii U, I was like a huge fanboy, or not a huge fanboy, but I was like dead set on Nintendo being my main platform, right? And then like somewhere around like 2017 ish, I kind of realized that the Wii U couldn't really do everything that I wanted. I know, kind of late, but whatever, right? And so I went to the PS4. And then I realized how much of a mid console the PS4 is, so I went to the Xbox, and then I realized that wow, they're only gonna get worse from here, aren't they? Like so, which I was right, by the way. So then like eventually, I got a decent or no, like I went back to the Nintendo Switch because it was portable, and I liked portable gaming. I had a history with portable gaming, so I just managed to go on there instead. But then like eventually I got a decent enough PC, and then the Steam Deck was announced, and then pretty much that got me into PC gaming. So here we are.
if it isn't my first choice all the time. As you can tell though, I've traditionally steered more into the PlayStation direction over the years. It's what I grew up with, and of the big three, I vibe with PlayStation exclusives more than those of Nintendo or Xbox, back when Xbox had exclusives. Obviously, people are well aware
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand that. By the way, like, yeah, Sony did have some kick-ass exclusives. Like, and if you notice too, like, they really tried to compete with Mario, right? With like the Ratchet and Clank, and they even put some other spins on 3D platformers such as Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter. They actually did pretty well, in terms of quality. But the problem is that they weren't really consistent with it. Like after Jack 1 through 3, what other notable Jack game did they make? Not really any, right? So kind of a lost opportunity, really.
of the fact that I'm a big
They always did that though, even in the PS3 days with the Infamous series, right? I mean, yeah, they kind of put one on the PS4 as a launch title or launch window title, but that's about it. Kind of sucks.
God of War fan. It's my favorite game franchise, and I've also been known for my coverage of Twisted Metal, and among other things, I'm also a big fan of Infamous, the Ghost of games, Ratchet and Clank.
Oh my
The
god,
list goes
yeah.
on. With that
Oh my god, yeah, Twisted Metal. Who remembers that one?
said, there's absolutely no doubt that the whole PlayStation has no games meme that's been going on for ages does ring true somewhat. Despite the fact that console exclusives have traditionally been the thing that sold consoles over the years, the PS5 only has a small handful of
No, it hasn't. Totally disagree. By the way, that's a really low IQ take. Yeah, exclusive games is what sold consoles. No, not true at all. What's the most sold games on the PS2? Right? Was it the PS2 exclusives? No, it was just fucking sports games, bro. So you're wrong. We're dead wrong.
them, which doesn't appear to be changing anytime soon. Recently, it was announced that Sony was going to be shutting down Bluepoint Games only a couple years after acquiring them, which really upset me personally. Sure, they're only best known for making remasters/remakes of existing games, but that's been their job, and they've done it incredibly well. To hear that they got shut down,
And like, not to mention that there's nothing really wrong with like graphically or mechanically updating a game so that it could come to a new platform, right? Like there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think Bluepoint was if used correctly, I think Bluepoint is a perfect studio to remake older games, right? Like I think so because the fact that they remade like Demon Souls, not really remade. We all know it's a remaster. Let's be honest here. But like to be fair, maybe except for some glitches that I don't know about, did that game really need to be remade, or re-brought into the world? You know what I mean? Like, I think there are just some games that need to be redistributed, bro. I'm not gonna lie. So,
after doing basically nothing post-acquirement, was sad. In fact, I was baffled more than anything because I questioned what was even the point of acquiring them if they were going to be shutting them down so soon. But then I got to thinking, and
because Sony and Microsoft are both really incompetent with owning companies, Sony fucking bought what is it? uh uh the Destiny crew, right? They bought them. What the hell was their name? Bungie. They bought Bungie, and look what they're doing with them. Stupid crap that fucking dies in like 2 weeks. Yeah, Concord, anyone? Right? Like, come on now.
started asking, what were they even doing for the past couple of years? Because I had heard a while ago that Bluepoint Games were working on a game for a while, apparently an original game. And I decided to look more into it, and was surprised to find that, of all things, it was a God of War live service game. A game which was cancelled just a few weeks before the studio got shut down.
Which, by the way, there's a bunch of L's like going around. You know, like a bunch of L opinions going around that, oh my god, it would have been a bad game, blah, 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 blah. No, if it was free to play and it like had a good gameplay loop, you know, I think it would have been fine. I think actually, look, here's the thing though. Sony is doing a fucking horrible job. They're doing a horrible job in bringing people into their games as a service. They do understand that people only, like, the most popular games as a service games are free to play, right? Sony does understand that, correct? Like, and like, not to mention that you're just starting to do the free-to-play thing, so you, I'm sorry, the games as a service thing, so you have no right to charge for them, straight up. Like, they really don't. They got really lucky with Helldivers 2, but let's be honest, like, that game would have been the game without Sony, you know? Like, it doesn't matter. And, I mean, they're just lucky that it launched with the PC version, otherwise that game would have been dead, you know?
Now, I'll speak in a moment about how much of a baffling f***ing decision that is, but after looking into this, it struck me. Didn't I hear of at least 2 separate other live service games by different developers also getting cancelled? I decided to do some digging, and I found something quite illuminating because I didn't know the half of it. Now, generally, I live in a perpetual state of dillygaff and tend not to keep up with a lot of gaming news because I have better things to worry about, so this was probably old news to some of you, but to me it was such an eye-opening revelation that I felt I had to talk about it, because it made a lot of things suddenly make a lot of sense. There weren't 3 PlayStation live service games that were cancelled, not 4, not 5, but 7. Or possibly 6. The number is a bit screwy because...
Really? I heard 12. Right? Or maybe that was just 12 projects? I don't know. But I heard like up to 12 projects. Like last year I heard that. Well, it was canceled. You know, and like that's why the PlayStation fanboys had such a drought between like the games between newer games, you know? That's why they had such a huge drought, because they actually canceled 12 projects, my guy, not just 6 or 7. Absolutely not.
Because of various mixed reports. But either way, no matter how many got cancelled, a bunch got cancelled, and there are a few more whose fates
Yeah, exactly.
are unknown.
See? 12. Correct. Look at this. Yeah. The Arrowhead Game Studios. Okay, never mind. That released. All right. Ben Studio unannounced game service canceled. Bluepoint Studio God of War canceled. Bungie Marathon. Oh yeah, I guess that's coming out, or it is out. Okay. And then Bungie's Payback canceled back in 2024. Okay, interesting. I forgot about that piece of shit. I really did. And then Fire Sprite's Twisted Metal games as a service game canceled. Wow. Wow. Like, fucking hell, man. Oh, dude. Yeah, and then like Spider-Man, the games as a service game, The Great Web, canceled. Like, holy shit, bro. Damn.
And I could not believe that half of those games were even a thing. Aside from the aforementioned God of War live service game by Bluepoint Games.
I mean, I can. You know? There's nothing wrong with having a game as a service Spider-Man game. As long as it was free to play, I mean. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You know? Like, again, Sony needs to get into the free to play market. They can't get into this games as a service crap. You know? They have to get into the free to play market. They will not stand a chance with a games as a service game. They won't. Because, first off, Sony does not know mass appeal. Yeah, sure, I know that God of War got it, but that was a single-player game. I know Spider-Man has it, but that's not their franchise, and that's a single-player game. They don't know any online multiplayer, like, mass appeal. They don't. They, like I said, they got lucky with Helldivers 2, but again, that game would have been that game without Sony. So what I'm trying to say is, with or without Sony's involvement, you know, like, games are, like, with their involvement, online games are not very much their forte. It's not. And that's why people even went to PlayStation in the first place recently, because they've been making a, high quality single player games. And now here they are, well, high quality in terms of graphics and walking simulators, but like, regardless, they found a niche, and then now they're ignoring them. You know, now they're pissing them off because they're just completely ignoring them. You know, so, I mean, what are you gonna do, right?
As well as The Last of Us, a live service game that was being made by Naughty Dog, you had such riveting ideas as a Spider-Man live service game by Insomniac Games, a Twisted Metal live service game by Fire Sprite.
Sorry, hold on. I just want to talk about how much of a huge L this stupid thing is, like with the whole what is it? The Last of Us Factions 2 or whatever, right? The Last of Us 2 Factions. How the hell can you not make a online mode in a game, right? Like, that is a complete L on your part, and honestly, they should get fucking fired for that. because all they're able to do is just remake what is it called? Like The Last of Us. All they're able to do is just remake that piece of shit. So honestly, I would just fire them. They're not useful.
An unknown project by Bend Studio, a studio which hasn't finished anything since the surprisingly successful Days Gone. Apparently, that's Sony's idea of following up. Then you had several more that weren't.
I mean, it wasn't successful enough to have a sequel, so I don't know about that, Chief. But even then, it's like they just made the first one available on PC, and you know what? That's probably for the best. Honestly, I don't know if a sequel would have been good, right? I mean, especially with all the woke shit that happened around the first game, right? Like, oh, the protagonist is white. I'm not kidding. There's actually articles talking about that crap, and it's like, okay, bro, sure.
Tied to specific established IP. Several of these were only vaguely hinted at, without any specifics of their existence leaking other than vague details, and I decided to dive into this rabbit hole to explore what the hell had been going on for the past few years that led to this philosophy which made Sony want to start trying to make 12 live service games, as well as what led to the cancellations of all these various games. I mean, I probably don't even need to say what caused all the cancellations, but yeah, we'll get to that. Apparently this goes back to an announcement in 2022 when Jim Ryan announced that these 12 live service games were in development. Let me be clear, I have contempt for Jim Ryan, but I don't hate him as a person because I don't know him. I mean, as much contempt as he earned.
Wow, heckin' wholesome opinion there.
Yeah, we all know that you don't hate him, but yeah, whatever. But here's the thing, though. I don't really care what a game is, right? It could be single player, multiplayer, games as a service. Like, as long as it's good, you know, and it's worth the fucking value. And to me, multiplayer only and games as a service games need to be free. Okay, I wholeheartedly believe in that because, like, okay. Think about what makes the experience for each game, like each games as a service or multiplayer only game. The people, right? Obviously, you need people to play it. So how are you going to get people to play it? Like as many people on each platform to play it when it's not free to play, right? Think about it. If it's paid, if this games as a service or multiplayer only game is paid for, you like say if you're on an Xbox or PlayStation or even Nintendo, right? You have to like pay for online. So not only that you're putting it on a platform that's most likely not going to do that much numbers, and even if it was, like, even if they didn't have to pay for online, but you're also putting it on these platforms where not everyone on those platforms have online. So it's like you're just making people, you know, you're just locking it to just a few select people on those platforms, which is not a smart idea. You know, and what, because you're too selfish to, you know, let people play your game for free? It's stupid. Now, of course, when I say free, I mean free to play, or games as a service, free to play, right? So that means that, yes, although, like, the game initially would be free, you could still make money off of, like, off of selling skins and shit like that, you know? It's like, don't make any pay-to-win garbage. That shit died in 2012 and should stay such a thing, right? But, you know... I hate it. This gaming industry is not really getting better with that, are they?
And apparently he was the one pushing for PlayStation Studios games to come out for PC, so as somebody who wants my favorite games to be played by everyone, I don't know what to think. With that said, I know for an absolute fact that the decision to make all these alive...
Wait, does he have a problem with that? Is he really low IQ enough to have a problem with PC guys being able to play PlayStation games? Motherfucker, you ain't gonna get PC guys to go to PlayStation. That was never gonna happen anyways. That was never on the table. Get over yourselves.
Service games goes back several years before 2022. It also involved a lot of other dumbass faceless executives you've probably never heard of, and it was a dumb decision by every single one of them, including Jim. Either way, apparently this was an attempt to refocus their business strategy.
Wait, was it really against the PC games going to... I mean, the PlayStation games going to PC? Oh my god, what a dork.
An attempt at a new chapter in PlayStation's history. It's plain to see that in hindsight, that this was an absolute brain-dead decision. Because how many games have come out for the PS5 right now that qualify as high-level exclusives that aren't ports or remasters? To make it trickier, games that also didn't have a PS4 port. But let's also include ground-up remakes, since those are pretty much whole new games. And I'll include those that eventually came out for PC. What, around 10? Meanwhile, the PS4 had like 30. It's also noted in some press releases that when these developers were instructed to make live service games, they were apparently not happy with the decision. Which makes sense, a lot of these developers were traditionally single...
Oh, boo-hoo, shut the hell up. Like you guys were making good games in general. You weren't. So, I mean, like, hell, they weren't even making games in general. You know, it took them years and years to make games. And, like, that's literally why Sony is going for this approach, by the way, is because these idiots took way too long making these games. You know? Actually. And it costed way too much. You know? Like, guys, please let me understand. You know, like, why did it take them so fucking long to make a sequel to God of War 2018? You literally recycled most of the gameplay, adding some shit there to make it seem like a sequel when it's not. Like, not a true one, at least. Hell, it was even meant to be a DLC. It was a canceled DLC, for the love of God. You know? Or not canceled. It was a DLC that moved on to be a quote-unquote sequel. You know? So, it's like, you guys took way too damn long making games, and you have the balls to say, like, oh, we're unhappy with games as a service. Well, tough luck. Maybe take shorter, amount of times to make your fucking games, right? Like, shit. Actually, I don't blame Sony in that aspect, right? I really don't. They take too long, they spent too much money, and obviously Sony's gonna be like, okay, how are we gonna, go, like, make more money, right? How are we gonna make more money in a more efficient amount of time? And although I don't agree with this decision of going games as a service only, I don't agree with that, decision. It's also better than, oh, let's wait 5 years for a recycled sequel. Like, it's better than that shit, bro, I ain't gonna lie.
Player developers being forced into a situation they weren't used to. That's the same reason why that Kill the Justice League game was not good. Among other reasons, Rocksteady was expected to make a game they weren't.
Well, no, it was a shitty, typical, like, quote-unquote
action game with, like, brain-dead gameplay. $70, I'm not lying. This was $70 fucking dollars when it launched, and it was a games as a service slop. Like, bro. And had shitty writing, obviously.
Equipped to make. So if you look at the list of games that were being made here that were obviously bad ideas that got canceled or might get canceled, just imagine, if you will, a world where all these developers were instead making single-player games that they were interested in, where all this development time and money went to that instead. A world where nearly a dozen studios weren't hamstrung by idiotic corporate overlords without any foresight. Well, first of all, I don't envision Bungie making a non-live service game, so the two that they were making can be safely discounted. And obviously Helldivers 2 and Concord both came out, which leaves no less than 8 games that were being made or are currently being made that nobody asked for. And I don't think all 8 of those devs would have finished products if they were making single-player games instead of games as a service. A few of them probably would have been canceled, but let's just say 6 of them came out. That would effectively double the amount of PlayStation exclusives that came out this generation. You think about that and you realize, remember how I mentioned the whole PlayStation has no games meme at the beginning of the video? For the past couple years, I was under the assumption that the fact that PlayStation has had a sporadic first-party lineup at best, like a reverse Wii U, that it was entirely off the back of development now taking too long for them to be coming out consistently, but this showed me that no, that's actually not the case. PlayStation had the capabilities to be able to
I mean, yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, look. Here's the thing. The single-player games that they would have released are still too expensive to make, you know? Like, Sony really went down this rabbit hole of spending way too much money on single-player games and taking way too damn long, by the way, making them when they're just the same shit over and over again. You know, my examples to that is Spider-Mid 2, Spider-Mid 2, God of War Ragnarok, and, what was the other one? What was it? Fucking... What the hell's the name of that stupid game? Where it has the bitch taking over the robots with her staff or whatever, or her arrow. Horizon, right? How did any of those games take years? I already said this, fuck. But, like, how did any of those games take that long to fucking release, bro? And they were hell expensive, too. It's not like they were just, oh, yeah, like $50 million games. No. They recycled gameplay. And it, they didn't really add much, and then they took years. Like, the hell?
Release upwards of 8 more separate exclusive games in addition to what they currently have. But instead, they chose to bank all their success on the hypothetical infinite money glitch that is live service gaming. And you don't need to be a genius to see where it all went downhill. They bet the entire generation on this, and they failed. Ray Charles could have seen that this was a bad idea, and he doesn't even play video games. Now because of this, Bluepoint is gone, and who knows who's next. They wasted an entire generation for this. And it's not like we're halfway through the generation. Front to back, the 8th generation was 7 years. Meanwhile, Generation 9 began in late 2020. Think about it. And I look at all this wasted time and money, and I can't help but think about Japan Studio, and how they were closed down for not being profitable enough. I'm sure the specifics...
Yeah, that sucks, man. That really does suck. Especially
for, like, Gravity Days. Dude, I would love to see that on modern platforms right now, especially the Steam Deck. I would love to see Gravity Days 1 and 2 on the, PC, Steam, obviously. Switch 2, right, and even Xbox, I would love to see them on there. But unfortunately, Sony has other plans and want to screw us over, right?
They're too complex for someone like me to understand, and the Lord knows they hadn't made anything that really interested me in a long time. But I'm also wondering if they even had the ability to do so. Obviously, things like Knack and Gravity Rush ended up being niche, but Japan Studio was also saddled with a bunch of VR stuff as well as Android and iOS slop. Meanwhile, back in the PS1 days, they took multiple years with a 100-person team to make Legend of Dragoon. They obviously didn't have that kind of support by the end, even though the PS4 was more successful than the PS1. But why couldn't they? They had the pedigree. It says to me that they could have been supported but weren't seen as worthy because once Sony decided to refocus their efforts into the primarily live service market, Japan Studio seemingly just didn't fit their vision.
Yeah, I mean, here's a crazy thing, right? I'm just gonna end off
with this because obviously the game he's just like repeating the cycle of, oh, Sony could have done this but they didn't. So I'm just gonna end it off with this, right? The funny thing is that Sony's whole strategy with going with games seems like it would just work better if they went multi-platform. Can someone please tell me why you need a PlayStation to play these games? You don't. You really, really don't. Right? It's like, think about it. Do you need a PlayStation to play Astrobot? No, you don't. No, that could run on the fucking Switch too. You know, like, come on, man. I mean, like, hell, they're not even against the idea. Obviously, they have like MLB The Show that's on the Switch, and and the Xbox, by the way. And then like they're releasing, or I think they released Marathon on the Xbox. It's like, yeah, so it's like you ain't really against like fucking releasing any of these exclusive games onto other platforms. So just go multi-platform, motherfucker. Goddamn. Even Microsoft isn't fully going multi-platform either. It's like, it's so retarded. It's like, you guys are not good enough to be exclusive anymore. You have no right to be a console-only type of manufacturer anymore. You don't. You really don't. Your games are not good. They take too long to release, and you spend too much fucking money on them. It's like, isn't it just better to just release it on mobile, PC, Nintendo Switch, whatever, right? Like, just fucking release it on other platforms. Just stop acting like these companies are that good, because they're not. Anyways, I'm done. This was Tactical Bacon Productions, 10 out of 10. Bye.